Well, hello everyone. It is Friday, April the 29th, 2022, the last Friday in April, and this is your Status Chat. I am Dale Delbridge, Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and let's get to it. Hello, I'm Dale Delbridge of Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. If you are currently unrepresented and would like to know how to compare up to 3 properties side by side and room by room, then go over to my new YouTube channel. Call Dell to Sell. That's one L in Dell, no spaces. Watch the demo on Real Scout and then call me and we'll set up your exclusive ad-free account today. Well, hello, welcome to the middle segment. As with anything we bring you from the internet, the full description or the full link will appear in the description of the Status Chat over on the YouTube page in the Status Chat in which that thing from the internet appeared. We'll have something for you today, which is interesting if you live in Rutherford County or if you live in Middle Tennessee. It may help explain something. Now, what we have here before you is from WGNS Radio, and we have the link up above here. It would appear in a Status Chat. We have a date here in very tiny little writing that says April 26, 2022 at 6:26 p.m. it looks like, and they give the credit to the radio station, not an individual. This is a lovely little map with multicolors in it. We just love our little colors and our it's like Arlo Guthrie, circles and arrows, and the paragraphs on the back explaining to each other. Well, we have some interesting news coming up. We have an assessment, and I think the assessment was that the property values in Rutherford County in its total on average went up, I think, 44%. Okay, that's a beautiful thing, don't you think? We're going up in values because of all this, and we've talked about the big blue wave as people are moving out of where they're from, and they're coming to Tennessee and Florida and Texas primarily, and they're moving out of these areas. They're coming to lower tax states. They're creating a tremendous demand. You know what that's had if you've looked to sell a house or buy a house lately. But it affects us who aren't selling our homes just as much in a very similar fashion because it affects our values. That short inventory affects our values. That's where we are. Well, here we have our little map. Well, if I can take you back into time, I don't know how many of you people know who Phil Valentine was. I kind of knew him. I considered him a friend, and he knew me by name, although I don't think we ever went out and smoked cigars or played golf or anything like that. But we would talk about a number of things. And a couple of years ago, he went into the tax. He wanted to generate a tax program. And I said, Phil, you don't really know what you're talking about. You know, here's your friend. I'm trying to help you. I don't have hundreds of thousands of people listening to me. So when I'm wrong, you know, unless it's on a contract or a transaction, it's not that big a deal. Let me help you with this, because Phil was talking about, well, the equalization in the law in Tennessee. Well, we got back to that map. Every March, Phil would get his tax bill and hate like the devil to have to pay it. And I would tell him every March, Phil, I wish I was able to have the tax burden you do. And that came from something Daddy used to say, God rest his soul, before he passed away. He would say, I wish I could pay $1 million in taxes. And I thought, Daddy, what a nut are you? And he would say, no, you don't understand. If I paid $1 million in taxes, that would mean I had to make substantially more than $1 million to have that high of a tax burden. Well, that's true. So I would reflect that to my friend Phil and say, Phil, I wish I had, first of all, the ability to stub a check like that when I get one. And I wish I had the numbers of acres you have in Williamson County and had the ability to relocate an old cabin, because I have an idea how much it costs to do that. We've looked at it in the past, and I'm sure it's gotten worse since then. And it's a nice place. And then, of course, build a house on top of that and all that and run it. And he'd complain about running the internet back to the back and how much. It's like, you are a blessed man and don't even know it at this point. But I like your idea of wanting to make sure that old people don't get kicked out of the home. So where did we get into this conversation? Well, the laws in Tennessee say we have to have a two-step process to raise your rate, so to speak. We have an equalization board that oversees it, which is a body. And then we have, of course, a tax assessor who just looks at the market value of properties and he assesses them and adjusts them accordingly. And then we have the body that actually wants to set the rate. And they can be done by county or like metro, or they can be done in various cities. And in the case, let's go back and look at that WGNS map. You see, it's all done. Equalization is done by the county, not the city. Even though if the county puts a tax in those excluded areas, which are cities, they may set their own rates. But the county may not generate more revenue by a reappraisal of property values, which are based upon historic records of what things were bought and sold and traded for. Okay, then the tax people come back and adjust it the next time up. However, the subtlety I was trying to get across to Phil was, rest his soul, Phil, because he said your tax bill can't go up. And that's not really true. Your tax bill can go up on a reevaluation. But the law says the county can't. That's true, but you're not understanding how this works. Let's go back to that map. Here's our map. The county may not generate more revenue. It has to be revenue neutral. I don't know how they define what that is. That's the equalization board's deal. They do that. But explained to me by experts in this field, they explained to me the county can't make any more money. But that doesn't mean that everyone in the county will pay the same rate after the reassessment. How can that be, you say? Very simple. Look over here. I'm somewhere in this area over here, and which means I'm either 46.6% or 49.5% with some exceptions. This big area is how much that value jumped up. Now we compare that to this little area over here on the west side of the interstate 24. We see 39.6 and 36.4. That's a lesser amount than the 49.9 and 49.5 and 47.46. So if the county cannot get more revenue off of it, it doesn't mean that as the values are unequal in their distribution throughout the county, if this area, or like in the case of Williamson County and where my friend lived, if his property jumped up in value because he has massive acreage and a lot of good land, he may actually go up in his value, and his tax may go up, while some other places, say maybe the east side of Antioch, maybe they go up, but not as fast. That's what we're seeing here. If this is 39 in this district and 49 over here, the 49 may pay more in taxes than the 39 because the value is changing. While the rate may have been adjusted for the entire county, that rate may be adjusted for the whole county as a net of 1 of 95, so that those 1 of 95s never go up on an assessment. But the value where you sit in your house, if it goes up higher than average, you could expect to pay a little more on your taxes. And if your area you live in goes down a little more than what average is, your taxes may actually go down until they change the rate officially, which is usually the following year. Anyway, so there's where we are. Let's get back to the show. Now that we got that done and we got our middle segment out of the way, let's look at the numbers and compare, see how we did over the previous period. Previous period was 4/22/22. We had 84.56 in the availables, which was an increasing over the previous period. We had 42.68 in the under contract still showing. That also increased, but the ratio between the two dropped to 50% at the integer level. Now compare them to this week's numbers. We had 87.11, which jumped up quite a bit. It was also 43.74 in the under contract still showing. They also took a rise, and the ratio between them stayed steady at 50%. So I'm looking at that, as suggesting our spring sales period has begun. We've certainly got the grass and the bushes and the trees going. My red oaks are already budding out, so I'd say we're moving along in the heart of the main sales period. Might be a good point in time to look at your inventory levels and look what you have around. So that's the end of our show. We appreciate you watching. I promise you this is the last show you'll watch in April of 2022.